Council prayer. Dear God, today as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please join me now in honoring America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Mendonça. Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Dakota. Councilor Elliott.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for Alice Eklund Ward, a lifelong Lowell resident and matriarch of a well-known boxing family. She was the wife of George Ward Sr., with whom she celebrated their 51st wedding anniversary last year. Affectionately known as Nana, as well as the mother of the well-known Eklund Ward families, she was well known throughout the community. Her family was her most important pleasure in life, and she enjoyed spending time with her children and her grandchildren, especially Dickie Jr., whom she raised as her own son. In addition to her husband, George, she is survived by her 9 children, Donna, Gail, Dickie, Phyllis, Cindy, Catherine, Alice, Mickey, and Sherry, her 19 grandchildren, and her 19 great-grandchildren, her 4 brothers, Bobby, Jerry, Jackie, and Albert Greenelge, and her sister, Mary Libera. She was a strong woman in a field that was only inhabited by men, and she survived it. I admired her drive and determination as she protected her children. We join her family, relatives, and many friends in offering our deep sympathy. She will be truly missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I also would like a moment of silence with darkened chambers for Teresa Lucraft, a loving and devoted wife, mother, grandmother, and friend. Mrs. Lucraft was a former election commissioner for the city of Lowell, a member of the Highland Players that raised thousands of dollars for charity, a community activist, and an outstanding citizen of our city. May she rest in peace.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield. Will you all rise now in darkened chambers for a moment of silence? Thank you. May they rest in peace. Before we actually get into the agenda this evening, we have 2 events prior to our meeting. The first, it's my pleasure to present 3 citations this evening to Captain Jonathan Webb, posthumously to Detective Gerald Wayne, and to Linda Coughlin for their hard work and diligence. We all read about a case that was over 40 years old. Through the good work of Captain Jonathan Webb and Linda Coughlin and Detective Gerald Wayne, the police department was able to apprehend 3 individuals that were involved in that murder back 41 years ago. Let me start with Captain Webb. The citation, I'll read them all and then I'll present them. Be it hereby known to all in the city of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, extend its deepest congratulations to Jonathan Webb, Lowell Police Captain, for his leadership to solve the 41-year-old homicide case of 15-year-old John McCabe. Captain Webb's exceptional guidance and determination resulted in giving assistance to his detectives that provided a young victim a voice and his family some much-needed closure. The entire city honors Captain Webb for all of his dedication and wishes him the best for continued success given this 3rd day of May 2011 by James L. Milanazzo, the mayor, and all of my colleagues here this evening, along with the city administration. Also, as I mentioned, and was reported, that 2 detectives, Linda Coughlin and Gerald Wayne, Be it hereby known to all, the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts extends deepest congratulations to Linda Coughlin, Lowell Police Detective, for her dedication in solving the 41-year-old homicide case of 15-year-old John McCabe. Detective Coughlin's tireless efforts and hard work in this case resulted in the apprehension of 3 suspects. This collective effort has brought justice to John McCabe and his family. The entire city honors Detective Coughlin for all of her devotion and best wishes for continued success given this 3rd day of May by the Mayor James L. Milanazzo. And then, as important, obviously, we have a citation. Be it hereby known to all, the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts extend its deepest congratulations posthumously to Gerald Wayne, Lowell Police Detective, for his dedication to the 41-year-old homicide case of 15-year-old John McCabe. Detective Wayne meticulously analyzed and reviewed information pertaining to the McCabe homicide case to provide his colleagues enough leads so that they are able to eventually apprehend 3 suspects. This collective effort has brought justice to John McCabe and his family. The entire city honors Detective Wayne for his devotion and perseverance in such a complicated case, given this 3rd day of May 2011, by, again, myself, James L. Milanazzo, the mayor, and my colleagues and the administration. So on behalf of the City Council, it's my pleasure to present these citations to Captain Webb, to Detective Coughlin, and to Detective Wayne.
Thank you, Mayor. When I first became chief in 2006, one of my first meetings was with the McCabe family, Mr. McCabe and his wife and members of the family. And quite honestly, I told them we would do everything we could, but I was not optimistic. This case was close to 40 years old, and all the leads had been run down and with no results. And what I didn't realize and what I didn't take into account was the tenacity, the dedication, and the hard work that Detective Jerry Wayne, Detective Coughlin, and Captain Webb had done and would do as we proceeded in the next several years. And because of them, because of their work and because of the work of the state police and the DA's office and the Tewksbury Police, but significantly the work provided by these 3 individuals, the closure came. And as I had reported, and it was said in the newspaper, I can't imagine the feeling that I would have that day when we told that family that case had been solved. The tears of joy and the great emotion was just so outstanding. It was so significant, and it was really due to the work that they all did. And Detective Wayne's son, Eric Wayne, is a member of the Lowell Police Department. He could not be here this evening, and he would have been here if he could to accept on behalf of his father. But certainly, Detective Coughlin, a close friend of Detective Wayne, and Captain Webb are accepting their awards. And we really appreciate the work they did, and really was a tremendous effort and something that's truly unheard of to solve the case so many, many years later. So it just points out, I think, to many people how what a great job the members of the Lowell Police Department do on a regular basis, and this is just an example. So we appreciate your recognition, and thank you very much for everything you did for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, congratulations. We'd also like to recognize and ask Elsie Nunn and John Wooding of Cool to come forward to announce the annual breakfast and to also talk about the LTC grand opening. So if you would, John Wooding, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm John Wooding. I'm currently the chair of the Cultural Organization of Lowell's board. It's the first time I've ever given witness at the City Council, so you're not as scary as I thought you would be. As you're expecting the Spanish Inquisition or something. I just want to take a moment to say a couple of things about Cool and its activities. It's the 10th anniversary, and we have an annual report, an executive summary, which we'll be giving you tonight. You'll get the full glossy report at the later stage next week when we finish putting it together. Cool's 10th anniversary has been a great moment for me as chair and for the board. And I want to just take a moment to thank the members of the board, all of whom work voluntarily and have been incredibly active over the last 10 years, many of them for most of that time. Recently, we started a new initiative. 6 task forces of the board were formed to help develop a whole range of activities in the city. And secondly, I want to take a moment to thank LZ Nunn and the staff, without whom none of the activities that go on in Lowell in recreation or art and culture would really ever happen. And she's a fantastic resource for Lowell, and I've worked with her for a very long time. Just a couple of things about what we do. Cool really is a bridge for all the events going on in Lowell, both amongst the community, the artistic community, the ethnic and minority community, as well as local townspeople. We put on a whole range of events, and I won't bore you with the details of them here. That provides, on one level, a great economic boost to the city. In this past year, we calculate over 285,000 people visited Lowell because it's become a destination city for art and culture. And by using a common metric, that generates something close to $5 million of economic development in Lowell over the past year alone. In the last 10 years, Cool has brought in $2.5 million in direct grant money, largely through the activities of LZ and her staff and some of the board. That in turn will generate $7 or $8 million of economic activity, again, looking for businesses, for the culture or the tourist activity of Lowell. But perhaps more importantly, everything that the Cool does, and all of the arts and culture folks in Lowell, they provide the city with a kind of education, cultural richness, sustainability, and community, which is so critical to the city as a whole. And so I think I want to just make acknowledgement of that it's not just about this as the creative economy and the jobs that it brings. It makes Lowell the kind of place that people want to come to. And as you can tell, I'm from England, and my family often visit, and many of them want to come to Lowell. Not only because of the history of the factories and the mills. We've got lots of those up the wazoo in England. What they've got here is the incredibly vibrant cultural community. So that's a very important part of what Cool has done. So I'm going to turn this over to LZ and Zaina here to talk a little bit about some of the specifics.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, John. And we also wanted to make sure to thank the leadership of the Lowell City Council. It's really through your efforts and your passion for all of the events here in the city, for all of the cultural organizations that Lowell has, that really makes Lowell an incredible place to live and work and visit. And the mission of Cool has always been to stimulate a vibrant cultural environment, create engaging programs, and champion those who make, present, and preserve Lowell's diverse cultures. So we're really excited about this 10-year anniversary because it's allowed us to be able to work with so many more organizations throughout the year. This year we've been really pleased to provide through a 2007 Cambodian rock opera. There was $24,000 in revenues generated from that opera, which has been re-granted for over 10 Cambodian cultural programs in the last 2 years, and many of which have been going on just recently for the Cambodian New Year. So those are mentioned in this little executive summary report. We also are launching capacity building workshops for artists and creative entrepreneurs. We do technical assistance on a daily basis for festivals and events in the city. 25 Lowell Cultural Council grants are administered through our office, and we thank the Lowell Cultural Council for their support and passion for all that they do. We also want to make sure to alert you the Discover Lowell series, which is the yellow flyer that you have, has really been made possible in large part through a Mass Cultural Council grant and also over 20 funders and organizations here in the city that make those programs possible. And we want to make sure to invite you to each one of those. In particular, Riverfest is coming up on June 11th. And this year, special to our 10th anniversary celebration, we will be featuring a new Lowell Cooks Cookbook, which is going to have recipes from different ethnic and community organizations as well as local restaurants. So we're excited about that, as well as an emerging artist anthology. So we will be doing a full, you'll have the full glossy Cool report at the annual breakfast. We hope that you all can come. We've got some honored guests, including Representative Thomas Gold, Golden, Senator Eileen Donahue, of course, our mayor and city manager, and Andre Dubus will be reading a very brief snippet from his new book, Townie. So we hope you can attend next Wednesday morning at 7:30 and celebrate with us. And thank you very much for your time tonight and your support.
Thank you. Thank you, Elsie, very much. Thank you, John. It now gives me great pleasure to ask Eleanor Pye to come to the microphone to talk about LTC's grand opening. Good evening.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ellie Pye. I'm the Executive Director of LTC. It's Lowell Telecommunications Corporation. Most of you are very familiar with what we do in LTC. We're the community access TV station here in Lowell. What you may not be familiar with, and hopefully you've heard through the grapevine or read or gotten our invitations to, is that LTC is just about to open its doors on its new facility, and we are very, very excited. So we are inviting everyone in the community to come join us. It's happening in the midst of the Doors Open Lowell weekend on Friday, May 13th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. LTC is going to have its new entrance directly across from the National Park Visitor Center, and it's pretty exciting. This is the first actual event that LTC has hosted in quite some time because, as most of you are familiar with our space, it has been a very kind of confusing space. Most people remember LTC by saying, oh, I think I got lost there once. That's not going to happen. It's a much more inviting space. State-of-the-art technology is being installed, and I invite all of you to join us on that night. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of entertainment, and we're really excited about the change. So I just wanted to take a few moments to say, come on down and join us on Friday, May 13th.
Great. Thank you.
On Market Street.
Thank you. Same location.
246
Right,
Market
46
Street.
Market Street. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Anyone have any comments, questions? Thank you to our guests for being here. We certainly appreciate the invitations. Moving on with the agenda, the first item is the minutes of the April 26th meeting for acceptance. Motion by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Elliott. We accept the minutes and place on file. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Under City Manager Communication, responses to council motions and requests. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank the manager and Tom Moses and the auditor for furnishing the council with that financial report on the perpetual care. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on motions, responses? Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I read with interest the response to Councilor Murphy's motion about, the possibility of some sort of tax incentive program to encourage first-time home buyers. It was, I think, I guess, good and bad. I was excited to see the state's working on a program, for market rate housing, which is, I think, part of what we need in the city. I think we've had very good success with some of the low and moderate income properties, but part of the resurgence we had in the early 2000s was the addition of market rate housing in the downtown. And so I think we've always thought it's critical to have a mix of incomes, and that's what leads to healthy and vibrant neighborhoods. It doesn't do much good to have it all be people of low income. It doesn't do you much good to have exclusively high income areas either. It does appear it's going to be a competitive process, and whether we can benefit from it or not, I guess, in part depends on market conditions. But I was disappointed to see that there's really nothing out there that targets 2, 3, 4 family homes, because later on in the packet there's something about sustainability, and what we want to take pictures of that we want to sustain for the future. Well, we've got quite a bit of old housing stock. It's not going anywhere. A lot of it's distressed, and the way it's going to improve is really to be owned and occupied by owner occupants and cared for. And I think, the state and through the Gateway Cities initiatives really aren't doing much to address that issue, where, the opportunity is there now with, prices being somewhat lower than they have been. And I know we have our own loan programs, and those are terrific, but I think, we've had a successful model here And we have one that ran out of funding halfway through the fiscal year this year. Now, I know we have other programs, so we think we can pick up that slack, but, you know, what speaks to the success of a program but that you run out of money? And you know, I think we should be pushing on the gateway cities people. It's good that the governor's office recognizes this, but we've got a positive story to tell here that could be a model for other places, and we just, you know, whether it's a loan pool or something that they can make available, but, you know, we have all sorts of incentives for large-scale developers, and we need them. We need those projects, and we need those incentives, but there seems to be precious little in the way of somebody who's trying to just buy a starter home and make ends meet. And what I'm afraid of is, you know, because of all the problems with the mortgage market, that a lot of banks are going to pull back from those programs, where we have a record of success here that we could show. Don't do it your way, do it our way. So, you know, I would just encourage the folks at DPD to stay on this. I think, you know, it's going to be crucial to the success of a lot of our neighborhoods that we do something with the housing stock there. And so this doesn't seem like this program may be exactly geared toward that, but maybe some other one will be.
Thank you. Manager Lynch?
I appreciate Councilor Martin's comments, and I think that it's a sentiment that is shared by the administration, that there are some, you know, many of the programs and the efforts that are taking place at the state level really don't speak to the specific needs that we have here in the city of Lowell and other communities have in terms of addressing those, as you say, the 1 to 4 family homes, and bringing in the market rate units and helping people do that. We are working. Councilor Murphy has filed some motions that we're still working on, and I know Councilor Martin has been a champion of the home ownership efforts that we've been doing here in the city, and so we are continuing. Mr. Bakey and I met just last week to go over some different ideas of ways that we can look at some additional resources to put to this purpose. So hopefully we'll be able to come up with something in the very near future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate Councilor Martin's comments. I think that the city does do quite a bit already. One of his programs, the 2 for Lowell, that you know, encourages owner-occupied housing, the receivership program that's just been implemented. But I think the more that we can come at it from a number of different angles, the really better we're going to be able to address the problem. And so, you know, we do have down payment assistance, which helps with the owner-occupied housing, but that's attached to the home buyer rather than the actual property. I think that some kind of program can work, but we have to try. And to start with a program that does, you know, build on not just, that doesn't directly address that property, but takes into account all the properties that surround it in a way that increases the incentive for people who might purchase that property. Because I think sometimes it's not just that the property itself is abandoned and blighted, it's that the neighborhood itself is that way, and so any amount of money that's invested in one property doesn't have that high rate of return. But if you had a concerted effort to address properties in a particular area, that you might see that turnaround. You can also build upon all of the investments that are happening publicly. You know, the manager's initiative, I think, really has worked on that premise that the more that you address all kinds of problems at once, the higher the return on that investment. And so I think, you know, I would certainly encourage the manager to work towards that direction in trying to come up with a program with parameters that would work.
Thank you. Manager Lynch?
Just in following up Councilor Murphy's comments, that's in particular what we're hoping to do is sort of tie this in with, and I know you and I have had an opportunity to discuss this on a couple of occasions. The idea would be exactly that, to sort of tie it in with some of our neighborhood initiative efforts. We worked in Centerville 2 years ago. We're working in the Lower Highlands this year, and we're identifying the next neighborhood we'll be going into next year or this summer. But it would be tied in so that you can really turn a neighborhood around, not only with the public investments, but also try to leverage additional private investments, particularly in those 1 to 4 family distressed properties that may be out there and affecting the neighborhood as a whole. So that's the direction that we hope to head with this, and again, we're working on some of the parameters of that right now, and hopefully we'll be able to roll that out soon.
Thank you. Councilor Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the manager and his assistants for their researching the community gardens and giving us an answer back about the community gardens motion. Both Councilor Murphy's motion and this motion, to me, demonstrate that we are moving towards quality of life issues and beautification in our neighborhoods, and I think that's a good direction to be going. And so thank you for that. For people who are interested in doing this, the city is putting together an application process, which I'm assuming more information will come. So keep posted if you're interested in community gardens. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy?
Thank you. On that response, it was also noted a couple of the kinds of sort of barriers to being able to do this. One of them being access to water. And I wonder whether in the sort of application process that's developed, whether we could, supply rain barrels and that type of thing. I know that there are a few still left on the shelves that haven't been bought up at that reduced rate, and so in those areas where there really isn't any access to water, where you just have a single tract of land that doesn't have plumbing, that might be a way to go. The other thing was, and this was actually brought up at one of our meetings by the manager himself, getting to the idea of the insurance problems that any city would face in being able to implement the program, and looking towards the state to sort of change those guidelines to group it in with parks and recreational space, which makes sense to me. The idea that gardening would be more potentially injurious to your health than recreation and sports, I think is a bit ridiculous. So if we could push on that as well at the state level to actually reduce the costs to the city, I think that would be a direction to head in.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Councilor Murphy. Anyone else on responses, communications? Hearing none, motion
Mayor,
by... I'm sorry, Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the city manager, or Mr. Moses, thank you for the report on tax title collections. It is good news that they're up. I just had a question, and in addition to giving credit to the law department and MIS and the Treasurer's Department, I just had a question regarding bulk tax title sales. It's an innovative collection option. I'm not familiar with that, and it's an option that you're using, but you say you haven't used it yet. So is it just the threat of using it that is making people come forward and pay it? Or maybe you can explain, one, what that is, and how is it working, but it's not working?
It's something we're considering right now. We haven't actually done it. We have to issue an RFP, but basically that it sells our receivable, cleans the slate, somebody pays the taxes
Okay.
and then assumes that debt. So the city gets 100% of its money up front, and then the homeowner is, or property owner, because they're not all homes, then owes a third party.
Okay, so you're considering it, so when you communicate to the delinquent taxpayers, you're saying, look, we're considering putting you in this bulk's tax title option or package, and that makes them come forward to pay it.
Right, we're being very aggressive in communicating with the property owners that we intend to take whatever actions necessary to collect the money.
And is it primarily, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but is it primarily absentee landlords or multifamily property owners? Because the next, and maybe there's no correlation, but it indicates that another automated permitting system that you've implemented is able to identify these delinquent taxpayers before they're given building permits. So is there any correlation between the two, or is it just?
No, I think tax problems run across all classes,
Right.
commercial, residential, all sizes. It really doesn't matter.
Okay, and that's another good thing that people at home should know, that people that owe taxes are not be given building permits for other pieces of property, and that's part of the whole automated system that's been put in place. How many have we caught, if you will? How many have, Bill, that's been? Is it a significant amount?
I couldn't even estimate, but every week there's several who come in, and in most cases it's an opportunity for us to correct an issue, both for the taxpayer and the city. Obviously, the city wants to get its money, but there are times when the taxpayer is not even aware that an old bill is due, and it's an opportunity to clear these up as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Anything else? Motion by Council Elliott, second by Council Martin, to accept the communications placed on file. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Public hearing time. We have one public hearing this evening. In City Council, order of taking and acceptance of various streets to take by eminent domain and fee certain parcels of land in the City of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of the following named streets and other municipal purposes associated therewith: Acropolis Road and Corinthian Drive. Public hearing is now open for those wishing to speak in favor. In favor. That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition. Public hearing is closed. We have to actually refer this to the city clerk for 1 week. Motion by Council Mercia, seconded by Council Martin. Any discussion? Council Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad that these two streets came up for approval for acceptance. And having said that, I did receive a call some time ago from a resident of Acropolis Road. There's a portion of Acropolis Road that was not accepted. I think portion of the street is, and a portion that we're accepting today has not been accepted. And having said that, the city ran sewer lines up a portion of Acropolis Road, and with this street being an accepted street, I hope that in a new development having gone in there with Corinthian Drive as well, if we could put the street back to the quality that it should be, I think this is a good thing. And I think if that's what stopped it from being done, I know that a lot of it has to settle first before you can do the final coating. So I think if we accept it and then a few years went by, maybe now it'd be okay to pave it finally.
I will look into that particular situation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council Martin?
This, I think, has been at the council not in a long time, but it was a perennial issue for a long time. This was a project, I think, abandoned at some point by the developer, and residents have been extraordinarily patient, I think, and I think many thought this day would never come. So Kathy Nutter and many others in the neighborhood, I think, deserve credit for their persistence, and thanks for their patience on this. So.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would also note that although he's not here, Councilman Donza has really been trying to push to get more and more streets accepted. So I just recognize his efforts.
Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor of referring this to the city clerk for 1 week signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Thank you. Getting back to the city manager's portion of the agenda, we have a communication requesting out-of-state travel. Chief Pitter respectfully requests permission for 2 members of the Fire Investigation Unit to travel out of state to Manchester, New Hampshire to attend the New England Arson Seminar. The travel is from May 23rd to May 27th at St. Anselm's College. Funds for the seminar will come out of the Fire Department budget.
Yes, move approval.
Approved by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Dakota. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça? Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor
Yes.
Caulfield? Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Dear Mayor Milonazo, members of the City Council, pursuant to the authority vested in me as City Manager under Chapter 382 of the Acts of 1991 and Code of the City of Lowell, Article 7, Section 9-23, I am appointing the following person to the Hunker Homeless Commission to fill the unexpired term of Mark Cripps, which term expires January 1st, 2012, or until such time thereafter a successor is appointed and qualified. Jackie Hayes from Lowell House Incorporated, 555 Merrimack Street. Under the above referenced ordinance, confirmation by the City Council is not required. I would be happy to answer any inquiries you may have concerning this appointment. Motion by Councilor Caulfield, seconded by Councilor Broderick to accept the communication and place on file. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Thank you. Appropriation transfer. Vote in City Council order to provide for anticipated medical expenses for work-related injuries and to fund the position of Municipal Hearing Officer Claims Investigator for the City of Lowell Law Department. Ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the amount of $134,000 be transferred from Court Judgments Account Number 01514-163-576001 to various accounts in deficit, all of which are more fully described in Attachment A. Order recommended and introduced by Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. There's no objection. Second reading by title. Vote in City Council. Order to provide for anticipated medical expenses for work-related injuries and to fund the position of Municipal Hearing Officer Claims Investigator for the City of Lowell Law Department. Ordered by the City Council as follows: that the amount of $134,000 be transferred. What's the wish of the council? Councilor Elliott?
Thank you. So we're hiring, we're putting $9,000 towards that position, Mr. Manager. And workers' comp for the city, I know we've had this discussion, but can you tell us how much the city has spent this year on workers' comp? And I know you probably don't know this off the top of your head, but perhaps we could get a report in the future, number of positions and how much we budgeted and how much we had to add.
We will get that,
Okay.
that report.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's the wish of the council? Motion to approve by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça? Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor
Yes.
Caulfield? Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Vote in City Council order to fund final cost of wire inspector, city electrician position. Ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the amount of $72,445.02 be transferred from salary and wages permanent streets division account number 0400835-1-511000 in attachment A to salary and wages permanent electrical division account number 0408951-5110000 as more fully described in attachment A. Order recommended and introduced by Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Second reading by title. Vote in City Council to fund final costs of wire inspector, city electrician position. Ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows: that the amount of $72,445.02 be transferred. Any questions? Councilor
Yes.
Mercia.
I thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the city manager. Mr. Manager, When we have an electrical issue and we send our wire inspectors or employees to do the electrical work, they need their work inspected, do they?
They do need their work
And
inspected.
who is that inspects the city electrician's work?
The wiring inspector. The wiring inspector is part of the Inspectional Services Division in Planning and Development. The electrician is part of the Public Works Department.
So our own city wire inspector inspects the work of the city electricians?
Correct. In the past, as you may recall, they were combined. So the city electrician inspected their own work.
That's what I mean, that's bizarre.
Right. So now that's why we split it.
Okay,
So
thank-
they were
thank-
one and the same before,
Correct.
and now they're not,
Correct.
starting July 1st?
Last July 1st.
Thank you. Counselor Elliott?
We have no option, right? I mean, the city is the inspecting authority,
Correct.
and we don't want to hire someone privately, right? I understand Council Mercer's point, we have one department inspecting the other, but
Well, right, but again.
before it was,
Before it was the same department was inspecting itself. And that's,
every other community is
That's
faced with
the
the
way-
same thing.
right.
Right.
Every other community does it the way we have it set up now, as
Okay.
opposed to the way it was set up.
Thank you.
What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move approved by Counselor Elliott, seconded by Counselor Martin. Roll call.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Mendonça? Counselor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield? Counselor Dakota?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Next item on the agenda, in-city council vote authorizing the city of Lowell to petition the legislature for authority to provide for the secure storage of large number of firearms. Whereas the city of Lowell desires to provide for the secure storage of large number of firearms, and whereas the city of Lowell is petitioning the general court for passage of legislation authorizing such a change, and whereas a majority vote of approval by the Lowell City Council is required for the filing of such petition, now therefore be it voted by the city council of the city of Lowell as follows: that the city council of the city of Lowell, by a majority vote, hereby authorizes and approves the filing of special legislation to read as follows: an act to provide for the secure storage of large numbers of firearms, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives in general court assembled, and by the authority of the same as follows. Section 1. Section 131L of Chapter 140 of the General Laws, as appearing in the 2008 official edition, is hereby amended by inserting after the letter A in line 1 the following: by 1, and by inserting after the said paragraph A1 the following paragraph 2, it shall be unlawful to store more than 5 firearms, rifles, shotguns, machine guns, or any combination of such weapons unless such weapons are secured in a locked safe or vault. It shall be unlawful to store more than 10 firearms, rifles, shotguns, machine guns, or any combination of such weapons unless such weapons are secured in a locked safe or vault, and the area of the building in which such safe or vault is located is equipped with an intrusion alarm system with central monitoring. For the purposes of this paragraph, the term safe or vault shall mean a fireproof container with a combination or key locking mechanism designed to prevent entry by unauthorized persons, and such container is fastened to a wall or floor of a building to prevent removal of the container from the building by unauthorized persons. Any person who is in the possession of 10 or more firearms, rifles, shotguns, machine guns, or any combination of such weapons shall, within 24 hours of coming into possession of such firearms, notify the chief of police of the city of Lowell in writing of such possession of firearms and disclose the location of their storage. A violation of this paragraph shall be punished by imprisonment in a state prison of not more than 5 years, or in a jail or house of correction for not more than 2.5 years, or by a fine of not more than $5,000, nor more than $10,000, or by both such fine and imprisonment. The Secretary of the Executive Office of Public Safety may by regulation prescribe commercially available containers which meet the definition of safe or vault contained above. Section 2, the said Section 131L, as so appearing, is hereby further amended by inserting after the words "a violation of" in lines 10, 17, 25, the following words: paragraph A1 of. Section 3, the provisions of this act shall take effect upon its passage by the voters of the city of Lowell. Second reading by title, in-city council vote authorizing the city of Lowell to petition the legislature for authority to provide for the secure storage of large numbers of firearms. Council Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is a very, very important petition for the city and other cities as well. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, I believe the chief, Police Chief Lavalley, was involved with this along with District Attorney Leone.
And Representative Murphy.
Representative Murphy, that's right. Because of the incident that happened in the acre back in mid-January, that was a catastrophe. And I don't know how many guns were stolen, how many have been recovered, but with this bill, that just can't happen again. And there has to be something in place, something with teeth, and to let people know if they want to own guns, they're going to be regulated. And this is an excellent bill, and I applaud Representative Murphy, Chief Lavalley, and District Attorney Leone for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Council Caulfield. Council Mercia?
And also, I would like to add that if this bill passes, which I'm hoping and surely that it will, that a copy of this law should be in the police department when people come in to get a permit for their guns. Maybe they wouldn't have known that, so we should have that available there with each permit. That how do we know that they don't have like 5 other guns at home? So it's important that we make them aware of the rules and laws that just have taken place. Thank you.
Anyone else? Motion by Council Caulfield, second by Councilor Mercia. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça? Councilor Mercia?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Moving on to reports. The Public Safety Subcommittee met this evening. Chair recognizes the chair. Council Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. My colleagues, Councilor Frankie Dakota and Councilor Rodney Elliott, serve on that Public Safety Subcommittee with me. And in attendance was Mayor Milonazo and Councilor Rita Mercia, Manager Lynch, Police Chief Lavalley, a member from the Dog Officers Department, Solicitor David Fenton, and representatives from the MSPCA. The meeting lasted approximately an hour and a half, and it was a good meeting. And we heard concerns from citizens, and we heard concerns from the MSPCA and the Lowell Humane Society as well. I'll just read some of the concerns that were brought forward. Police Chief Lavalley. On 2 different occasions, the Lowell Police had to withdraw their service revolver because of a pit bull incident. And the chief indicated that that's not only dangerous to the officer, but extremely dangerous to the general public in that vicinity. Solicitor David Fenton read a long list of pit bull incidents, the latest one being on Merrimack Street, a business owner threatened the police with a pit bull. If they didn't leave the premises, they was going to let the pit bull loose. Church Street, a woman was attacked on Church Street, walking with her sister. August 2010, there was an incident in Westford Street where a young boy was attacked, and those 2 pit bulls later went to Drum Hill and had to be killed by the Chancellor Police Department. There was a total of 16 pit bull incidents over that time period, 2009, 2010. And the thing that I remember, the horrific attack on this 5-year-old girl who lived in Chapel Street, and that dog, that pit bull, lived in the same building as this young girl. We had testimony from Ken Favreau. Some years ago, his daughter was mauled by a pit bull, spent 2 weeks in Mass General Hospital. Over a period of time, had 7 operations on her arm. Carol McCarthy believes pit bulls should be muzzled. Its citizen safety is paramount. Anne Marie Page, her comments were, what is more important, the comfort of the dog, or the safety of our citizens. Mrs. Page believes pit bulls should be muzzled. Councilor Elliott brought a motion forward, almost at the end of the meeting, to have the city solicitor adopt the Boston ordinance pertaining to pit bulls. And before we get into that, I just want to, I indicated at the meeting, Mr. Mayor, that this was an excellent report. It was well done. And I read through the report not once, but 3 times. In 2008, there were 113 dogs, stray dogs, that were picked up. Of the 113 dogs in 2008, 65 of them were pit bulls. And here's the haunting facts. 60% of those pit bull owners never picked up the dog. And that's whether you're talking 2008, 2009, 2010, 60% of them. And I asked the question tonight, what happened to those dogs? And many of those dogs were in the pound or the Wignell veterinarian. Some were euthanized. So some of these owners, 60% of them, I'd have to say, there's no love for those dogs. Once the dog is retained, they just go out and get another puppy. That's what I surmise. Is it Mike Kiley who did this report? Mr.
Yes.
Mayor? Yeah.
From
Well, he-
MSPCA.
Yeah, he did an excellent job, and I'm going to read some excerpts on this report. Overall, I think these numbers clearly demonstrate that there is a significant issue with both pit bull population and reclaim rates in Lowell that are concerning. I think they also support my claim that pit bulls are the most commonly owned breed of dogs. Unfortunately, there are no other good statistics to pull from to demonstrate otherwise. And it was brought out tonight, Mr. Mayor, and I agree. Is it the dog or the irresponsible dog owner? And the incident that happened in Merrimack Street late at night, when the police officer went in to calm down the noise and so forth, and the arrogance of that business owner said, "Why don't you leave or I'm going to let this dog loose?" That's the arrogance. And that arrogance is bred into the animal. I don't know what the solution is. I read a paragraph from the Boston Ordinance. In Hyde Park and Dorchester, people were mauled and maimed by pit bulls, and now finally, children and the elderly can walk down the street and feel that they're safe. Now, we were planning to have another meeting next Tuesday and bring in a recommendation to the council. But at this meeting tonight, Councilor Elliott brought in a motion to have the city solicitor draft a muzzle ordinance using the Boston or Worcester ordinance. They're practically the same, Mr. Mayor, ordinance. That motion is before you, my colleagues. If the motion fails, there's no sense in having a meeting next Tuesday. So I would ask the motion to have a roll call on the motion. Councilor Elliott would probably like to speak on the motion. But something has to be done. There used to be, part of the motion was we're going to put placards or signs on the buildings where these dogs resided. Has that happened?
As you know, Counselor, under the dangerous dog ordinance, once a dog is deemed dangerous, they do have to put a sign, a placard. I don't believe it is happening, but again, as we talked this evening, it comes down to enforcing that ordinance that we currently have on the books.
From what I understand, and this is what I've heard from good sources, that the owner of the pit bull that has the business on Merrimack Street, they live in Lawrence. They came down to City Hall here to license the dog. Evidently, they have no scheme or absolutely no education about the dog, because if they did, they would know they have to license the dog in Lawrence. We have received, the council has received 10 emails Three of them are from Lowell. You know the other 7 or 8 are from? Cleveland, Ohio, Weymouth, Tewksbury, Tingsboro, Oregon. Please don't do this to those dogs. That woman on Church Street, Mr. Mayor, stayed in the hospital, in the emergency unit, for hours getting attended to. We didn't receive one email about that incident, not one. But Anne Marie Page sent us an email, and she says pit bulls in her neighborhood should be muzzled because people are just... I was walking along the river 2 Sundays ago, and a young man had a pit bull, and I know what they look like. They're not a boxer. They're not a Doberman Pinscher. I know exactly what they look like. And he was a good, strong guy. And he was holding that dog for all I walked 40 feet out of my way. But 50 yards down the path, a woman was walking her dog. I said, oh my God. Because you don't know what those, they're very unpredictable. So I'm not going to belabor the issue no more. I brought a motion in pertaining to this years ago. Councilor Elliott has a motion. It was seconded by me, and the motion is before you. Councilor Elliott, if you'd like to speak on your motion.
No, that was very well said, Council Caulfield. That was a recap of the meeting. I made the motion to bring a draft forward because we need something to vote on. So there was no sense of having another meeting if we didn't have some draft language. So that was the purpose of the motion. But we met for an hour and a half, and I expressed my opinions, my concerns, as well as everyone has. And so that was the motion on the floor to bring it forward, and that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else want to be heard on the motion? Roll call.
So the motion is just to have a draft prepared to be voted on next week? Is that?
No, to be
it's
voted or referred to a public hearing.
Have the solicitor draft a ordinance, but we're not going to draft the ordinance if the majority of the council says no.
All right. This is a new one for me. I mean, so we're gonna, but we won't. We're gonna vote on the ordinance at some point down the road, right?
Right, definitely.
So this is the first step.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I don't see any harm in drafting something to look at to see if we support it or we don't. So I support that.
Okay. Councilor Elliott?
I just made that motion because if we don't have something before us, I mean, we have examples of Boston and it was Springfield, Worcester, and others that if we don't have something to look at, then people don't know what they're voting on. So that was the purpose of it. So it's the first step. It'll go to the Public Safety Subcommittee next week, I guess, and then it has to go to an ordinance if it's even voted on. Right. I mean, to a public hearing, excuse me.
Councilor Caulfield?
Mr. Mayor, I had the city clerk, Richard Johnson, insert in your packet the Boston ordinance and the Worcester ordinance. It's there for you to read. And if you read the Boston ordinance, you will certainly see excerpts from certain neighborhoods, how dangerous it was there. But it's there in your packet, and you can read it at length. I put it there, put it there purposely so you'd have that information.
Would my colleagues mind if I spoke briefly from the chair? I was at the meeting this evening, and I want to thank everyone for being there. We did have some representatives from the Animal Advisory Committee that they are willing to work with the council to come up with an ordinance that may be stronger than the current ordinance we have in the book. As you all know, as a result of these meetings, we do now have a dangerous and vicious dog ordinance, and once a dog is deemed to be vicious, they do need to be muzzled. The placard does need to be on the house. On Church Street, there is a beware of dog sign on Church Street, and that dog, as we heard this evening, King Tut, did have an incident prior to the incident on Church Street, and that dog ended up being euthanized. As Councilor Mercia said, although I'm not going to support the motion, Councilor Mercia said we do need to get an ordinance before the council in order to have further debate. So it's up to, obviously, to the will of the council, but the Animal Advisory Committee is willing to continue to meet with the Public Safety Subcommittee to come up with a better solution, if you will, to having just a straight muzzle ordinance like they do in Boston and Worcester, but clearly it's up to the majority of the council. I certainly appreciate the work that the Public Safety Subcommittee put in this evening along with Chief LaValle. So with that being said, I'll Councilor Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I want to thank my colleagues on the Public Safety Subcommittee for having this conversation. I did not support bringing that ordinance to the full council for several reasons. Most of the people on the Dog Advisory Board have listed other issues that the muzzling ordinance by itself will not address, particularly irresponsible owners, enforcement, mandatory neutering, a potential certification program for responsible owners, and then dangerous dogs, and then another idea came up for a reporting hotline for dogs that were not abiding, owners who are not abiding by the rules. So I do think this is an important thing that we do, that we address it, that we look at it, but by putting simply a muzzling ordinance on the books, which in my mind gives us a false sense of security because of the fact that we don't have the power to enforce the resources, and it's going to be the irresponsible owners who are going to be having the dogs that are causing the problems. So I do think that we should address it. We should meet further, even if it's this week, so we can have something for next week. I do want to see all of these other issues addressed, and if in that case, I'd be happy to support this, but not just simply a muzzling ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
I'm sorry, I know this would be my second time, but I just want to make note. I did support the dangerous dog ordinance because I thought it was a good first step. My concern is, I think the problem or the flaw with that ordinance is that a dog can be muzzled once it's deemed dangerous. And that means that something has to take place first. King Tut, I mean, there was already something, that dog already did have a record, already had a problem with him. So this is just trying to prevent, in my opinion, it prevents that from happening, and it's not as reactionary. Okay, we have to, a dog has to be deemed dangerous. It has to bite, it has to attack, it has to maul, it has to do something, and then the dog officer can say it has to be muzzled when it's out in a public space. So that's my major concern with addressing this situation of bites and attacks and et cetera. So. Thank you, Mayor, for letting me speak again.
Anyone else on the motion? Roll call.
Councilor Martin,
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça, Councilor Mercia,
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo.
No.
Councilor Murphy,
No.
Councilor Broderick,
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota,
No.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Motion passes. 5 yeas, 3 nays.
Mr. Mayor, there'll be a Public Safety Subcommittee meeting next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, okay? That too early? You want to go 5:30? 5:30? Yes. And believe me, Mr. Mayor, the subcommittee will do everything possible to scrutinize and investigate something that has to be done.
No, you've already put in countless hours. You really
To
have.
benefit the
Right.
citizens of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on with petitions, we have petition attorneys Gary and Gary, LLC, representing George Scannell, Hyacinth Trust, request to amend order of abandonment of Border Street. Motion by Council Mercia, second by Council Murphy, to refer to the Law Department for proper vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed to vote. We have two claims, one personal injury claim, one property damage claim. Motion by Council Dakota, seconded by Council Caulfield, refer to Law Department. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Anything else? There are no motions this evening. Let me just announce that I believe Saturday is Hazardous Waste Day, May 7th, over at Colley Stadium, so please put that on your calendar. Motion by Council Mercia, second by Council Martin, to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Go Celtics.